Hey guys, just got home from seeing Cellar Darling in Toronto, their last stop on this very short North American tour. They played 3 dates. I believe they played New York, Montreal, and then Toronto. There was no way I was going to miss the Toronto stop. Big fan of the band. I was really dying to see them live. I really wanted to see how their sound would translate from the studio to a live setting. So there's no way I was going to miss a chance to see them perform in Toronto, considering this is their first time ever playing in Toronto. The show was at the Garrison, one of the venues that I really enjoy going in Toronto. I saw Insomnium there this summer with Oceans of Slumber. It's a really cool venue, small venue. I think maybe 300, 400 people at the most. But it's a really cool venue. I really like the acoustics of the venue, and I like the venue itself. So I was really happy to see that Cellar Darling was playing there, and I was going to have a chance to see them in my backyard. Before we start talking about the concert, there's a couple of things I want to mention. I want to say that I was lucky enough to be able to sit down with a band, with Merlin, Ivo, and Anna. We did an interview for the channel. I'm not sure if the interview is going to be posted today or tomorrow or the day after, but within the next couple of days, depending on time, I need some time to put the video together. I'm going to be posting that interview that I did with a band here in Toronto. It was really cool. I was able to ask some questions. I was able to get some answers specifically about their new record that's coming out. They're working on a new album, so I was able to ask them some stuff about that album. They were very tight-lipped, but I was able to get some information from them about that new record. I don't want to divulge much. I want you guys to watch that interview to find out as much as I found out during the interview. The other thing is I want to give a shout out to all the people that attended the show. I really appreciate people coming out, not only supporting Cellar Darling. It's always, for me, it's always important that when these bands come to Toronto, that we show up in numbers and that we show some support, so that it gives them a reason to come back again. And it gives the promoters a reason to also book these bands again. So it's important that if you like a band and they come to your town, you go see them, because this is the only way that they will be able to come back on future dates. So that's important. The other thing I wanted to say is that it was a pleasure meeting a bunch of folks at the beginning of the show. I was able to meet a bunch of people that watch the channel, that follow the channel. Some of them were in the bands that were opening for Cellar Darling, so it was a blast. Shout out to everybody who took the time to come in and speak to me at the show. It was really fun. One more thing I wanted to mention before we get started about the show is that I had a chance to meet Lindsay Schoolcraft from Cradle of Filth. She's a Canadian girl. She lives in the Toronto area, in the GTA. She was at the show. I was able to talk to her for a bit and exchange some ideas, take a picture with her. It was a really cool moment because I'm a huge fan of hers. I think she's the first lady of Canadian metal, if you will. So shout out to her. It was really a blast to be able to have the time to speak to her, talk to her, exchange some ideas. We're planning on doing an interview for the channel as well at some point in time. Where it just really depends on her schedule. She has a lot of things going on, but as soon as she has some time, we're going to sit down and do an interview for the channel as well. Now that I got all of that out of the way, let's talk about the show. So there were 3 bands opening up for Cellar Darling. There was a band from Philadelphia called Vedic, and then there were 2 Toronto bands. Iomair, I believe I'm pronouncing it right. You know, I apologize if I'm not pronouncing it right, but I'm going to put links in the description of the video below to all of the bands that were opening for Cellar Darling. So if you guys are interested, after the review, after what I have to say about the bands, if you guys are interested in checking out these bands, there will be links in the description below so that you guys can go and check out those bands for yourselves. The other band from Toronto was Protokult. So these were the 3 bands opening for Cellar Darling. I think Anna Murphy at the end of the show said it best when she said that this was a very eclectic night, because all bands were very different in their sound. They brought something different to the table and made a very unique night. It was not a show where all the bands kind of fall in line within the same genre. All bands were very different. All bands had something different to offer, had different sound, different style, different stage presence. So it was a very eclectic show. I think she put it best when she said that, and it's true. It was a very eclectic show. Vedic, I'm really not going to talk much about all the bands that opened for Cellar Darling because I really want to spend some time talking about Cellar Darling, but I will mention this. Vedic from Philadelphia, very good band. more of a thrash metal sounding band. I was not a huge fan of the vocalist, especially the clean vocals. I enjoyed his harsh vocals more than I did his clean vocals, but it was a very cool band, very strong sounding. When they came on stage, they looked to me like a cover band, a Crowbar cover band. That was their look. So I just think that vocally, I was not a big fan of the clean vocals, especially with how heavy and how hard the songs were. But I enjoyed the more harsh vocals of the band. Then the two Toronto bands, I like Protokult. I really enjoy the fact that they brought some wenches. It kind of reminiscent of Alestorm. They brought some wenches on stage with these Viking horns full of beer, and they were giving it to the people in the audience. So that was kind of cool. I thought that was a gimmicky but cool. I enjoyed that. I enjoy their music. I enjoy their sound. But to me, I just didn't feel like I wasn't overwhelmed. I wasn't blown away. It was a good band, a good metal band with a cool gimmick. Entertaining. It really entertained the audience. I wish they had the winches on the stage for longer periods of time because they were entertaining and easy to look at. That's the best way to describe it. So not a bad band. They were a good band. But out of the three opening bands, the one that impressed me the most was Iomair or Iomair. I'm not sure how to pronounce the name of the band. They're a new band from Toronto. They incorporate guys that are in other bands. The vocalist of this band is Sam from Astaroth Incarnate. I saw Astaroth Incarnate opening for Wolfheart this past summer. So I'm familiar with that band. I wasn't familiar with this band. But Sam is a great frontman. He's a great vocalist. He has a great presence, a great stage presence. And he has a great voice. I'm not a big fan of the Coalition. That's where we saw Wolfheart play. The sound there is not the greatest. This venue, the Garrison, the sound is a lot better. So I felt that this band, Iomair, has a lot of potential. They have a lot of tools. They have a lot of things going for them. They have, like I said, they have members from other bands, from other Toronto bands playing in them. So that brings a little bit more experience to the band, overall experience to the band. I thought they were very good. I really enjoyed the fact that they had a violinist, and she was playing the violin, and she was really good. She really gave more of a folky vibe to the music. But I really think there are two things that you take away from this band. Maybe three things, two positive, one negative. The two positive is the drumming is absolutely insane. I've seen this drummer before playing for another band at another show. I can't remember the name of the band, but it was at the Bloodshot Dawn show. So I've seen the drummer before. He's a bona fide badass drummer. And then the other key component for me was Sam's vocals. I felt that his vocals in this band really fit like white on rice, like a hand in a glove. It was just perfect. His voice really lent itself perfectly for the style of the band and for the sound of the band. The only negative that I would have about this opening band is the fact that they have a violinist, and I really enjoyed that, but I think it was overused. I think they used her a lot, and sometimes it overwhelmed the other instruments. Her sound overshadowed the guitars or overshadowed everybody else. So I think they should use her more sporadically throughout and not as much as a predominant part of the music. I really feel that the band would be better served with her coming in for a solo here, for a little bit of a sprinkle there, and a song here and there, versus using her almost to the extent that they use the guitars and the bass and the drums. So it loses its allure. So I really feel the same way Cellar Darling, for example, uses the hurdy-gurdy sporadically throughout songs, not throughout the whole song. I think they should do the same thing with the violin. I think it would create a more impact. It would give melody in the right spots, and it would not be overwhelming, and it would not be overused, and it becomes tedious and boring after a while. So that's my opinion on this band. But I really like their sound. I really like their stage presence. And like I said, I like the drumming. I like the vocals. Sam's vocals were incredible. This guy has a really good voice. And I think in this band, that voice really shines because it really goes well with the instrumentation around him. Now, Cellar Darling. All right. Cellar Darling comes on. They played. I don't have the set list here. Anna Murphy and the guys, they were very kind to me. they actually handwritten a set list for me and they autographed it for me. So not only the set list was not printed, it was actually handwritten by her and then signed by the band. Really cool of them taking the time to do that. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate them taking the time to do the interview with me for the channel as well. I was really not concerned, but I was really curious to see how their sound would translate from the record to the live setting. How would the hurdy-gurdy sound live? How would the guitar sound live? How would their stage presence be live? How would the songs, how would the set list work? What songs would they play? They only have one album. Are they going to play the whole album? Are they going to play some songs from the album and then some other songs? Are they going to play anything from the new album that they're working on? So these were all the questions that I had going into the show. The set list is pretty much 15 songs. They have a cover song from Queen that they did. They released it as a single, if you will. It's not on the record. This is the sound is not on that record, but they've released it as a single. So they played that as one of the Encore songs, and they pretty much played the whole album. So anybody attending the show in Montreal, Toronto, or New York got to hear This Is the Sound by Cellar Darling live in its entirety, not in sequence. They did not play from song 1 to song 14. That's not what they did. They alternate the songs. They switched them around. The order was switched around. But they played the whole album. They started with Black Moon, and then they just alternated it. I believe Avalanche was number 4 on the list. They alternated the songs around. They had 2 songs in the Encore. One of them was the Queen cover. So it was pretty much, it was kind of a treat because going forward, and they're going to start working on, they're working on a new album. That album is going to come out. Then they're going to work on future albums. You're never going to get a chance to hear the first album from Cellar Darling in its entirety, probably ever again, once they start putting out more records. So for me, I felt almost like, I felt a little special. You know, I felt like I was able to hear their original album, their first album, in its entirety performed live. And let me tell you guys this. I have a couple of key things to say about this. Let me start with the hurdy-gurdy. The hurdy-gurdy live, the sound is hypnotizing. Hypnotizing, especially in a small venue like the venue where I was, is hypnotizing. That's first. Merlin on the drums, the dude is a beast. A beast. All right? Evo on guitars, very cool. They had a session bass player for this tour. So that allowed them to have a different sound, a more refined sound, if you will. Now, the album sounds very different from what it sounded live. This band live sounds a lot heavier. So I love the album, but it was really nice to see the album converted into a live setting and becoming a lot heavier. The guitars are heavier, the drums are heavier. It made for a much heavier sound experience, if you will. And it's really cool because we've heard the album and then you go to the show and you're able to compare the sound of the album and the sound of the songs live. And live was a lot heavier. Another thing I have to say is Anna Murphy. What a voice. What a voice. Honestly, as good as the album is, and obviously you go into a studio and everything is tweaked to the minor details so that everything comes out perfectly. Her voice on the album, on previous albums that she's worked with, her voice is incredible. There's no doubt about how good of a singer Anna Murphy is. But I think you only get full appreciation for how good of a singer she is when you see them live. She is an incredible, incredible singer. I found myself during the concert was actually fairly long because they played 15 songs. They played the whole album. So the show didn't finish until after 1 o'clock in the morning, which for a Toronto concert that starts at 8, that's really late. Normally the concerts tend to end around 11:30 midnight. So the concert went long. Having said that, I found myself during the show mesmerized either by the sound of the hurdy-gurdy or by the sound of her voice. I just felt like I always felt this way about Cellar Darling's music. I always felt Cellar Darling's music allows you to travel with the music. It puts you into a trance. You're able to close your eyes when you're listening to it, and the music allows your mind to be transported into different places. The lyrics also feed into that sense of that experience, that sense of wonder and travel, and it puts yourself in the mind of the singer, and you try to see the song from her perspective. I always felt that way about Cellar Darling's music. Listening to it live was no different. I found myself a lot of the times mesmerized by everything, and just almost not closing my eyes because I didn't want to miss anything that was happening in front of me, but really finding my brain going to wherever the music was taking me, really following. Almost, I felt almost like the band, and more so Anna, because she's the singer, almost as a snake charmer, and I'm the snake, and I'm just being wiggled along, being charmed along. Like, the music was so elevating. The quality of the sound quality was incredible. Really good sound quality. Her vocals were pristine, were mint. The incredible performance, and like I said, they made the songs a lot heavier live. So when you make their music heavier live in the live setting with heavier drums, heavier guitars, and even her voice, sometimes she gave that extra raspiness, that extra umph, that extra screams, if you will, those extra notes. She went that extra step. It really allowed for the music to be heavier, but still not lose the essence of what Cellar Darling is, which is music that really allows your mind to travel with it and not have any boundaries. There's no boundaries when you listen to this band. And I felt that way live. I didn't know how, I know how I felt about their music listening to it at home, but I was wondering how it would translate to a live setting and how would I react to it as a listener. And the experience was incredible. It really elevated the crowd. I took a friend of mine from work to this show. He's never listened to Cellar Darling before going to the show. He heard 2 songs. He heard Black Moon and Avalanche. Those are the songs that I played for him in order to convince him to come to the show. He came to the show, and at the end of the show, he was like, wow, her voice is incredible. She has an incredible voice. He kept singing the same thing over and over again. Wow, this incredible band. I mean, the songs were good. He was saying the songs were good and everything, but her voice, I felt the same way. I felt that the music allowed you to travel places. Your mind allows to wander around, but her voice is majestic, incredible. It was so good. And then her interaction with the crowd was incredible too. She really has a stage presence. She really knows what to say, when to say it, when she feels like she perhaps losing a little bit of the crowd here and there. She adds a little bit of conversation just to re-engage the crowd and bring them back into the show. So I felt that she was in full control. She was the puppet master and we were the puppets. It was a really great performance, really good show. All I have to say is, if you guys have a chance to check out Cellar Darling live, do it. They have a new album coming out soon. I can't say too much about the album because I want you guys to watch the interview. They didn't divulge much, but they did divulge some stuff. So watch the interview once I post it. But if you guys have a chance to see this band live, I highly recommend you guys going, especially if it's in a smaller venue, because I really feel like your experience of the show is going to be that much better. You're really going to feel connected with the band because you're going to be so close. You're going to be able to be transported to places by the music. And then more important, at the end of the show, you'll be able to talk to the band, get to meet them, perhaps get an autograph, and really be able to fully understand their sound. I think you have to listen to them live. They're a much heavier band live. I keep rephrasing that, and I keep saying that because I think it's important. They're a much heavier band live, but they still don't lose the DNA and the essence of Cellar Darling. And Anna Murphy, kudos, incredible voice, and incredible person, incredible band, super friendly bunch. Thanks for having me at the show. Thanks for doing the interview. I really appreciate it, and I had a great evening. All right, so this is it for this Concert review, my next concert review is going to be Alestorm and Gloryhammer, not Glory Hole, Gloryhammer. I'm going to be at that show September 22nd, followed by Beyond Creation and Obscura. I'm going to be doing a concert review as well. And there's going to be some more live interviews coming up in the next couple of months, next couple of weeks. At some of these shows that I'm attending, I'll be doing some interviews. So keep your eyes tuned for the channel. You know, we always post reaction videos. We're always posting album reviews, but there's going to be some interview content coming up your way in the next couple of weeks. All right, guys, take care.